the rainy night diner. He figured it was just another Thursday, another quiet visit to the Greasy Spoon. But when a striking woman walked in, soaked, looking lost, and clearly out of place, Liam's life took a turn he never anticipated. A simple act of kindness blossomed into something deeper, something real. But what happens when the truth spills out, when secrets come to light and identities are revealed? Will their connection endure? Or was it all just a mirage, a fleeting illusion born on a rainy night? Rain hammered down, a relentless deluge turning the streets into shimmering rivers. Visibility was almost nil, the world reduced to a blurry gray. The small diner on the corner, Mom's Place, stood out like a warm, inviting beacon in the dreary night. Inside, the lights cast a cozy glow, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the twangy sounds of an old country song emanating from the jukebox. It was a slow night, even for a Thursday, with just a handful of regulars occupying their usual spots. Liam sat at the counter, his calloused hands wrapped around a steaming mug of black coffee. He'd just finished a grueling day at the auto shop, wrestling with stubborn engines and dealing with demanding customers who needed their cars back yesterday. His hands were rough, his clothes bore the faint scent of grease, and he was bone-tired. But Mom's Place was his sanctuary, his escape. It was a place where he could unwind, let the world fade into the background for a little while. The bell above the door jingled, announcing a new arrival. A woman rushed in, shaking off the rain like a startled bird. She was drenched, her expensive trench coat dripping water onto the linoleum floor. She scanned the room nervously, her dark hair plastered to her face. After a moment's hesitation, she made her way to a booth in the back corner and slid in. Liam noticed her immediately. She didn't look like someone who belonged in a small-town diner in Willow Creek. Her coat was designer, her leather boots impeccably shiny, and her movements possessed a certain understated elegance. But what truly caught his attention was the look in her eyes, a deep well of worry, a hint of vulnerability that belied her polished exterior. She seemed weighed down by something, like she was carrying a burden too heavy to bear. The waitress, a friendly woman named Betty who'd been working at Mom's Place for as long as anyone could remember, approached the woman's table and handed her a menu. Liam tried not to stare, focusing on his coffee, but he couldn't help overhearing snippets of their conversation. I think I forgot my wallet," the woman said, her voice low and tinged with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry. I didn't realize." Her eyes darted around nervously. Betty gave her a kind smile, but Liam could tell the woman was deeply uncomfortable, her cheeks flushed with shame as she rummaged through her oversized purse, desperately hoping to find something, anything. Liam set his coffee down, the clink of the mug echoing in the quiet diner. He made a split-second decision. He waved Betty over and pulled a few crumpled bills from his worn leather wallet. "I'll cover it," he said simply, trying to keep his tone casual. Betty looked surprised. "You sure, Liam?" she asked, her eyebrows raised. Liam nodded. "Yeah, it's no biggie." The woman looked up, clearly startled by his offer. "Oh, no, please," she said quickly, her voice laced with gratitude and a hint of reluctance. "You don't have to do that. It's fine," Liam replied, giving her a small, reassuring smile. "Everyone forgets things sometimes." She hesitated, then returned the smile, a small, grateful expression that transformed her face. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "You didn't have to, but—" "Thank you." Liam shrugged, trying to downplay the gesture, and went back to his coffee, not wanting to make a big deal out of it. Helping people came naturally to him. It was just part of who he was. He wasn't looking for attention or thanks, just trying to do the right thing. The woman finished her meal quietly, seemingly lost in thought. When she was done, she stood up and walked over to him, her heels clicking softly on the tiled floor. "Thanks again," she said, pulling a napkin out of the metal dispenser on the counter. She scribbled something on it with a pen she pulled from her purse and placed it in front of him. "Here's my number. I'd like to repay you somehow." Liam looked at the napkin, surprised by her forwardness. "That's not necessary," he said honestly, his cheeks turning red. "It was just a meal." "Maybe," she said, her smile growing a little shy. "But it meant more than you know. Call me sometime." And with that, she left, the bell above the door jingling softly as she stepped back out into the rain-swept night. Liam picked up the napkin and read the name written in elegant cursive, Alexandra Sterling, followed by her phone number. He smiled to himself, wondering who this mysterious woman was and why their brief encounter felt so significant, so charged. Over the next few weeks, Liam and Alexandra got to know each other better. It started with a phone call, then a coffee date at a different, less humble, coffee shop, and soon they were meeting regularly. Alexandra was warm, witty, and surprisingly down-to-earth. Liam found himself opening up to her in ways he hadn't with anyone else, not even his closest friends. He told her about his life as a mechanic, the long hours, the endless stream of broken-down cars, his struggles with money, and his lifelong dream of one day opening his own garage, a place where he could finally be his own boss. Alexandra listened intently, her eyes filled with genuine interest, always encouraging him to pursue his ambitions. She shared bits and pieces of her life, too, though she was careful to keep certain details shrouded in ambiguity. She told Liam she worked in business, but avoided specifics, deflecting his questions with a playful smile. She seemed to be intentionally keeping things simple, normal. For the first time in a long time, she felt like someone cared about her for who she was, not for her wealth, her status, or her connections. But Alexandra harbored a big secret, a truth that she feared would shatter the fragile connection they were building. She wasn't just an ordinary woman. She was a billionaire CEO, running a global tech company that frequently made headlines. She had spent years being treated differently because of her immense wealth, constantly surrounded by people who wanted something from her. She was terrified that telling Liam the truth would ruin everything, that he would see her as just another privileged heiress, not as Alexandra, the woman he met on a rainy night in a small diner. The truth inevitably came out one afternoon when Liam, emboldened by their growing closeness, decided to surprise Alexandra. He stopped by her apartment, a small gesture, with her favorite latte from a local bakery in hand. The door was slightly ajar, so he stepped inside, calling out her name. What he saw made him freeze in his tracks. The apartment was massive, a sprawling penthouse overlooking the city. It was filled with expensive furniture, original artwork, and breathtaking views. On the sleek, modern coffee table lay a glossy magazine with Alexandra's face plastered on the cover. The headline screamed, Alexandra Sterling, the billionaire CEO who's changing the world. Liam stared at the magazine, his mind reeling. The woman he had been falling for had been keeping a monumental part of her life hidden from him, deliberately misleading him. Alexandra walked into the living room, her face lighting up when she saw him. But the smile quickly faded when she noticed the magazine in his hand. Liam, she said softly, her voice laced with a mixture of dread and apology. I can explain. Liam turned to her, his expression a complicated blend of hurt, confusion, and betrayal. Explain what, Alexandra? That you've been lying to me this whole time? That everything you've told me has been a carefully constructed facade? I wasn't lying, Alexandra said quickly, her eyes pleading with him to understand. I didn't want my money to get in the way. I was afraid you'd see me differently, that you'd treat me like everyone else does. You didn't trust me, Liam said, his voice low and heavy with disappointment. You thought I'd care more about your money than about you. That's not it, Alexandra said, tears welling up in her eyes. I just wanted us to feel real, Liam. I wanted you to like me for me. I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared. Liam shook his head, his emotions overwhelming him. I thought I knew you, Alexandra, he said, his voice cracking. But now I'm not so sure. He set the magazine down on the table with a thud and walked out of the apartment, leaving Alexandra standing alone, tears streaming down her face. For days, Liam couldn't stop thinking about Alexandra. He felt betrayed, hurt, and deeply conflicted. But he also missed her terribly. Despite everything, he couldn't deny the powerful connection they had forged, the genuine affection that had grown between them. One evening, as he sat alone in his small, sparsely furnished apartment, nursing a beer and staring out the window at the city lights, he found a letter in his mailbox. It was from Alexandra. In the letter, she poured out her heart, laying bare her insecurities and fears. She explained how lonely her life had been, despite her immense wealth and success, and how much she dreaded being judged solely for her money. She wrote about how much she cared for Liam, how his genuine kindness and unassuming nature had drawn her to him, and how deeply sorry she was for not telling him the truth sooner. I fell in love with you, Liam, the letter read, her words scrawled across the page in a trembling hand. Because you see me for who I am, not what I have. I just hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Liam read the letter over and over, each word softening his anger and eroding his resentment. He realized that Alexandra had been scared, just like he was. Maybe they both needed to let go of their fears, their preconceived notions, and take a leap of faith. A few days later, Liam heard about a charity gala that Alexandra was hosting, a lavish affair to raise money for underprivileged kids. He hesitated, unsure of whether he should go, but ultimately, he decided he had to see her, to talk to her, to try to salvage what they had. He borrowed a suit from his best friend, a slightly ill-fitting but passable ensemble, and headed to the gala. When he arrived at the grand ballroom, he was immediately overwhelmed by the opulence and the sheer number of elegantly dressed people milling about, champagne glasses in hand. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting a dazzling light on the scene. He spotted Alexandra standing alone in a corner, looking distant, sad, and utterly out of place amidst the revelry. He took a deep breath, steeling his nerves, and walked up to her. Alexandra, he said, his voice cutting through the din of the party. She turned, her eyes widening in surprise when she saw him. "Liam," she whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "I've been thinking," he said, his gaze locking with hers. "I was angry, and I was hurt, but I realized I wasn't fair to you either. I let my pride get in the way. I don't care about your money, Alexandra. I care about you." Tears welled up in Alexandra's eyes, blurring her vision. "You mean that?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Yes," Liam said, his voice firm and unwavering. "I just want us to start fresh, Alexandra. No more secrets, no more hiding. Just us." Alexandra smiled through her tears and threw her arms around him, hugging him tightly. "You were always enough for me, Liam," she whispered into his ear. "I was just too scared to believe it." A few months later, Liam's lifelong dream finally came true. He opened his own garage, a place he had envisioned for years, a testament to his hard work and unwavering determination. The grand opening was a modest yet heartfelt event, filled with the people who mattered most to him, his family, his friends, and the loyal customers he had built relationships with over the years. The sign above the entrance, freshly painted with "Liam's Auto Repair," gleamed in the sunlight, a symbol of his hard-earned success. The garage wasn't huge, but it was everything Liam had ever wanted, a clean, well-equipped space where he could work with his hands, fix cars, and build a future doing what he loved. Alexandra stood proudly by his side, her face glowing with happiness. She had supported Liam every step of the way, encouraging him when doubts crept in and helping him navigate the challenges of starting his own business. Though Liam insisted on doing most of the work himself, Alexandra quietly helped in the background, using her resources to ease the process in subtle ways that Liam wouldn't notice. She didn't want the success to feel anything less than fully his. As Liam cut the ceremonial ribbon in front of the small crowd of friends, family, and a few curious locals, he glanced at Alexandra, who was clapping and smiling, her eyes shining with pride. She had been his rock through it all, the person who believed in him even when he doubted himself. Liam realized that her presence wasn't just about support. It was a partnership, a shared dream that they had built together, brick by brick. Inside the garage, tools were neatly organized, the smell of fresh paint still lingering in the air. Liam gave a small tour to his guests, proudly showing them the space he had worked so hard to create. Alexandra stayed by his side, quietly cheering him on, her presence a constant source of strength and reassurance. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the small-town landscape, Liam looked at Alexandra and smiled, his heart overflowing with gratitude and love. "We did it," he said softly, his voice filled with emotion. "No," she replied, taking his hand in hers, her fingers intertwining with his. "You did it, Liam. I just stood by the man I believe in." In that moment, Liam knew that their future would be bright, built on a foundation of love, trust, and the unwavering strength they found in each other. The rainy night that brought them together had led to something extraordinary, a love story that defied expectations and proved that sometimes the most unexpected encounters can lead to the greatest of blessings.